The alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, recorder. Do you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Looking for a pair of shoes? Let's Up Stores has a wide range of selection for unisex footwear. We have the best quality of all brands at pocket-friendly prices, and we make deliveries countrywide. Just place your order or reach us on 0772 08 0090. You can also check up at Let's Up Stores on all our social media platforms. Let's Up, craft your own footprints.
The alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of the Mighty Drive Show. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. Today is the 11th of September 2023, and of course it's a brand new week. Started off on a very cold morning, or a very cold note right here in Makinde, where we are streaming live from. It has been raining from as early as 6 up to right now. We're still experiencing that. So if anybody is still at home, in case you're not from this part of Uganda, but I'm hearing, I think it's going to be a rainy day throughout the entire country. So it is safe if you can be able to get yourself a coat, an umbrella, a jacket, or something that will keep you warm throughout the day. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome and welcome. This is the Mighty Drive Show. It's always a privilege and pleasure to have you on the show. We are always here having a conversation with Uganda, and of course we hope that when we have this conversation, they'll be able to change what you think, of course, of Uganda, and of course how people perceive Uganda to be, and of course how better we can make this country at the end of the day. As I told you, today is the 11th of September 2023. Mbana Uganda batulabira wona mutulaba olunaku olwaleero mbaniriza nnyo ku Mighty Drive Show. Nze Edgar Mathew Karuhanga okubanga nkuweereza ennaku z'omwezi ziri 11 tuli mu mwezi gwa mwenda omwaka 2023 tubuzayo emyezi ndooza ngi 3 okubanga tumaliriza guno omwaka gwennyini. So mwebale kubanga munneekuumidde amawulire tulina mangi okuva mu ggwanga ne wabweru w'eggwanga tulina amawulire mangi getugenda okubanga tukutuusako olunaku olwaleero, era we tunaba tuwumuddeko tujja kudda n'omukyala Farida Bikobere n'omwami Rogers Tulyahabwe tube nga tunyumyamu nammwe paka ku ssaawa zijja kuba nnya ez'akalasa mayanzi. Badde mbagamba nti akadde kakinyi kagobe ne makindi gye tusinziira okubanga tubaweereza, era osobola okugamba nti enkuba ekedde kubanga etonnya paka ssaawa zino ekyalimu kubanga efudde emba mu bitundu ebyenjawulo mu ggwanga, naye ne wano we tuli e Makindye eri mu kutonya butassa mwoyo. Mu mbeera eyo mbaniriza nnyo tambula ne jacket, tambula ne raincoat. Mu abatalina umbrellas osobola okuba nga ogifuna mpola mpola, osobola okuba nga weekuuma otuuke wano oba otuuke yonna gy'oyagala okuba nga okolera nga oli malidaadi sana. Muzikirize tugendeko mu mawulire agabadde gatambula sabbiiti ewedde era gamaze ne geemulungula ne gayingira ne mu sabbiiti eno yennyini. Tutandikeko wali ewa Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu ono ye mukulembeze w'ekibiina kye bayita National Unity Platform, ekibiina ekikulembera opposition mu parliament, naye era nga kyekibiina kyosobola okugamba ekivuganya gavumenti ekisinga wetwogerera ddala. Robert Kyagulanyi ono yatandikawo kaweefube w'okuba nga atambula mu bifo eby'enjawulo mu ggwanga muno ng'akola ekikwekweto ky'okuba nga azuukusa bannansi eri biki ebigenda mu maaso. Robert Kyagulanyi ono yatandikira wali mu Mbarara district gye yamala n'ava n'agendako ndoozi Fort Portal, abaddeko e Kasese, abaddeko e Kabale, atambuliddeko e Lire eyo, abaddeko e Mayuge, mpola mpola ng'agenda ayogera ne bannayuganda ku nsonga ezibaluma ate eziruma n'ekibiina kino. Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu mu bigambo byasinze okuba nga ayogera bye bizibu bye bafunye naddala gavumenti eno byereese mu myaka 37 gye badde kulembera oba gye badde kulembera eggwanga lya Uganda. Robert Kyagulanyi ayogedde ku nsonga nnyingi n'asaba abantu basobole okuba nga basitukiramu, basobole okuba nga bino boogera ku nsonga ezibaluma, basobole okuba nga beddiza obuyinza bwabwe. Ayogedde ku nsonga ez'enjawulo n'ayogera ne ku bintu byasuubiza bannayuganda ab'enjawulo biki by'anaabakolera bw'anaaba azze mu buyinza. Robert Kyagulanyi akyeyongerayo era ne sabbiiti eno agenda kuba atalaga ebitundu eby'enjawulo mu kye yayise first phase eya mobilization campaign. Sayina district ez'enjawulo zagenda okuba nga atalaga okutandika n'olunaku olwaleero. Ndowooza ku Storoti n'eggulu ye yabipostpondinze, twali tumanyi byagenda okuba nga atandikirako sabbiiti eno, naye mobilization eyo yagipostpondinze n'agisindika ku dates ez'enjawulo. Yagambye ndowooza kijja kubeera mu second phase ya mobilization ye ne National Unity Platform as a whole. So mu mbeera eyo yennyini Robert Kyagulanyi akyali mu kuba nga agezaako okuba nga anoonya biki agezaako okuba nga azuukusa bannayuganda mu mbeera eyo. Naye twawuliddeko ne retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye ng'ayogera ku kutambula kwa Robert Kyagulanyi ono. Yayogedde ebintu bingi naye yasinze kuba nga akkaatiriza ensonga y'okugamba nti kiki kyennyini Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu ono kyali mu kuba nga agamba abantu, message ki gya communicating, kuba yagambye message eno eri so key and pertinent at the end of the day. Kikyagamba abantu kiba kyamaanyi nnyo era abantu bannayuganda bangi abeetaaga okuba nga bafuna clear message according to Dr. Kizza Besigye. Dr. Kizza Besigye ono abaddeko mulabe yabafuzi, abaddeko nga yeesimbyewo ku ntebe ya president emirundi mingi, mirundi 4 ndowooza nga agezaako okuba nga yeddiza entebe enkulu naye tasobodde kuba nga akwata buyinza mu mbeera eyo yennyini. Katulinde tulabe Robert Kyagulanyi zino entambula z'atambula alina kyafunyeeyo oba numbers zo eziri naye nga tezireflectinga, ate of course anaataaninga atya oba anaakyusaamu atya enamba zino ezimugoberera okuba nga zitandika okuba nga zisobola okuba nga zirwanirira obuyinza bwazo mu mbeera eyo yennyini. Nga tuvuddeko kaawo tukomewo wano era mu ggwanga President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni olunaku lw'okuna sabbiiti ewedde eyo yavaayo n'ayogera eri eggwanga ku biki ebigenda mu maaso, naddala embeera y'obutali butenkevu oba insecurity ebadde egenda mu maaso mu ggwanga lya Uganda. Jjukira wiiki eyo ewedde ng'etandika ndowooza lwali lunaku lwa Sunday basobola okuba nga badetonatinga bombs ezaali wali ku Lubaga Cathedral. Banoonyayo ne bombs ez'enjawulo ne bagenda nga bazidetonatinga bano aba Uganda Police Bomb Squad mu mbeera eyo. Poliisi yavaayo n'esaba bannayuganda ab'enjawulo babeere very careful, basobole okuba nga beekuuma ekibambulira ky'abannalukalala ab'enjawulo abagezaako okuba nga balumba Uganda. Bannalukalala bano betumanyi beba ADF. So President yavaayo ku lunaku olwokuna n'ayogera ku biki ebigenda mu maaso essaawa zino era n'agamba nti bannayuganda bagira babeere bakkiriza ate babeere rest assured nti obutebenkevu bwabwe gavumenti ebutwala ng'ekintu eky'amaanyi era bakyali batebenkevu. N'ayogera ku ADF nga we bali aba TTZ lwaki tebasobola kuvaayo ne balwanisa Uganda direct mu mbeera eyo. So president yavaayo n'ayogera ku bulumbaganyi n'asaba Uganda babeere vigilant, yayogera ku bataxi kye basobola okukola, amakanisa bye basobola okukola okubanga beewonya ekibambulya ky'abannalukalala. Ku ngeri amagezi ge yawaako kwe kukeberanga abantu abagenda accessing ekifo kyo kebera bulungi, nayogera ne ku nsonga ya ndagamuntu, naye oluusi engeri gye addressingamu ensonga zino oluusi oyinza ogamba mbu ziri impractical, ebintu by'addayogerako tebiri practical bulungi, naddala kati ng'amatakisi ago osobola otya okugenda mu takisi ate n'oregisteringa buli muntu atuulamu, oluusi kiyinza okuba nga tekiri practical at the end of the day. Retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye we yawulidde omwami ono bye yayogeddeko President Yoweri Kaguta Tibuhaburwa Museveni, yavuddeyo n'atandikirawo okubanga abiwakanya obanga abikubamu ebituli. Mu mbeera eyo yasoose n'agamba nti kino ekya bombs zino engeri gye bali mu detectingamu, engeri gye bazadressinzemu, engeri police gyekoze amaanyi, vigilance eyo gyeyina, ye Dr. Besigye alinga atakkiriza mu kino, era ye ng'alinga agamba nti biri fabricated oba bijweteke mu mbeera eyo yennyini. So omwami ono Dr. Kizza Besigye yavuddeyo n'awakanya bomb threats zino. Yabadde ku Digitalk TV wano wennyini ku lunaku olwokutaano, yavuddeyo n'agamba mbu yetabikkiririzaamu era bino birabika si bituufu mu mbeera yonna. So njagala musooke muwulirize Dr. Kizza Besigye ono engeri gy'ayogeramu ku nsonga zino era engeri gy'aziwakanyaamu. Tukomewo tweyongereyo mu maaso n'amawulire. There's a mistrust in this government, literally in everything. And what you're sharing right now is what many people in the population are saying, that it looks like this is state manufactured. But if, hypothetically, what you're saying is true, what does this speak of the government that we have, the state, not government, but the state that we have?
Evil. We have the most evil government that I have had the misfortune of living under. Frankly, evil. One that is so focused on the well-being of very few people at the expense of literally anything else. Anything else can get destroyed as long as there is a preservation and even flourishing of a small group of people. That is the definition of evil. So hundreds of people can die, as long as it promotes the well-being of just a few people. That goes through the whole entire management of the Museveni junta, whether it's in education, whether it's in health, that you find, millions of people without health care. While their taxes, the taxes of those same people, are ferrying a few people to the most expensive healthcare centers in the world. It's evil. That's the whole essence of what we are experiencing. Evil, and as long as we don't get rid of it, we will continue on the receiving end.
Mwebale nnyo oyo retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye yabaddeko wano ku Interface Show ebeerayo olunaku lwa Friday kuva ku ssaawa 6 paka ssaawa 8 ez'omutuntu. Yabadde ayogera ku nsonga ezigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga. Yawakanyiza bino ebya bomb threats zino ezikyali mu kugenda mu maaso mu bitundu ebyenjawulo mu ggwanga. Nga tuvuddeko kaawo tugendeko wali mu G20 summit ebadde egenda mu maaso mu ggwanga lya India. Amawanga gano aga G20 ge mawanga ge wali gambye gannaggwa dda, amawanga agakola ku nsimbi ne gakunakuna mu mbeera eyo geegatta wamu gasobole okuba nga gabeera mu kibiina kyekimu gafinding common solutions ezinayamba amawanga, ezinayamba the whole world at large mu mbeera y'ensi yonna engeri gyefaananamu. So bano nno baamaze ne bakkiriziganya nti bagenda kubanga bakkiriza African Union okubeera ne permanent membership ku G20 click mu mbeera eyo yennyini. So balinga abatukkiriza Abafirika okubanga tubeegattako mu G20. Juka G20 eno ebaddewo emyaka n'emyaka naye amawanga agabaddemu ge mawanga ge waligambye agakoledda nkozi n'ekitongole ekya European Union oba omukago ogwa European Union nagwo gubadde gulina permanent membership wali ku G20 kati naffe aba Africa bamaze okubanga batukkiriza okubanga twegatta ku G20 mu mbeera eyo ndowooza omuntu akulembera kati African Union President wa Comoros yabaddeyo wali mu ggwanga lya India gye basazeewo enteekateeka kino nno kizze mu kaseera nga amawanga ag'enjawulo especially European and world leaders amawanga ag'enjawulo aga amagagga gagezaako kubanga gakomyawo African Union oba Africa as a whole mu mbeera ey'enjawulo oyinza ogamba African continent baali bagiraba kuva dda from time immemorial. It has been a continent that has been exploited, a continent that has been seen to be a continent of slaves, yeah? And those are only n'abamu abakwata ne scriptures ezimu ne bagiweteeka nti we are meant to be slaves of the white man. So they've always been looking at us like that. But in the wake of things as they're happening right now, we are seeing that everybody is trying to fight for Africa. So what is that is special that Africa has? I'm speaking this from a perspective of, if you remember, the Brics, coalition also came through recently to, add more African countries to that particular league. You remember countries like Egypt is already there. Ethiopia is part now of the Brics. Brics is, those countries that try to create another alternative coalition for the world. So we have countries like Brazil, we have Russia, China, South Africa. They're all there trying, to create another coalition. So in that regard, they added other 6 more countries to this particular, Brics coalition. And in those countries, we have Egypt and we have Ethiopia. So the question or the rhetoric is, what is so special about Africa today that everybody is trying to bring them on their side? Ndoza mujjukira ne mu lukuŋŋaana olubadde lugenda maaso eri Africa-Russia Summit era twalabanga omwami Vladimir Putin ne banne bagezaako okubanga bakima Africa nayo esobole okubanga bafindinga common ground ne Russia. Then wotunulamu ndoza twalina ne wali eya USA Africa Summit era African countries ez'enjawulo zasindika ba representatives mu US okubanga bafinding a common ground. China ebadde ekola emirimu mingi mu Africa, batuzimbidde enguudo, balina projects nyingi in African countries ez'enjawulo ebigenda maaso mu Nigeria. Olaba mbuno kati France bagezaako okubanga bagigoba mu baali mu kolonizaayo. Kwegamba Africa wokitunulamu kati buli omu ajettanidde nnyo. Lwaki essaawa zino bajettanidde ate kiki ekyamaanyi kye tuleeta on the table? Is it the resources we have? Is it the human capital we have? I don't know what exactly do these gentlemen want at the end of the day. Naye nga kimulina omanya there is a targeted interest towards Africa from the whole world now. There is something special about Africa that is going on, that everybody wants to, have Africa on their side. Is there something eminent that is coming that we do not know about? Or, it's just politics as usual. You're still watching the Mighty Drive Show. We have, 35 minutes past the top of the hour. Munzikirize malirize ndoza ne stories intono in Morocco. Waliyo earthquake ebadde egenda maaso eyo ndoza mubimanyi. Unfortunately, abantu abakunukkiriza mu 1222 as of today morning baadde bamaze dda okubanga bakakasibwa okubanga bafiiridde e Morocco eyo. Bano nno gyabadde earthquake oba musisi eyayise olunaku lwabadde lwaggulo, naye abantu abafudde wetwogerera nga tukakasiza abantu 1222 as of today morning babadde bafiiridde mu mbeera eyo. Mujjukire nno nti Morocco yali yasembayo okubanga efuna embeera bweti oba musisi w'ekika kino mu mwaka gwali gwa 1900 when tried to signing the Buganda agreement. Nabe eyo bafunako ensonga eyo eya musisi oba earthquake. So kyannaku nnyo naye ate musisi atandise okubanga yeerabisa nnyo obanga yeeraga nnyo ensangi zino. Twasembeyo okumuwulira wali mu Turkey oba mu ggwanga lya Turkey era abantu bafiiriddemu mu earthquake ezo. Kati ate ne mu Morocco kyekimu. In fact Morocco bagamba ono musisi w'amaanyi nnyo. After effects baziwulidde mu mawanga agali as far as Portugal basobodde okubanga bawulira effects eza Moroccan is a Moroccan earthquake in that particular regard. Tumalize ndoza ne Africa Climate Summit ebadde egenda maaso mu kibuga ekya Nairobi. The irony is summit ya ebikwata ku butonde oba climate ezze mu kaseera nga Nairobi kye kibuga ekisinga okubeera ne dusty air we twogerera. Empewo yaabwe nchafu nnyo. In fact oba wetegereza ebifaananyi bya Nairobi ng'omusana guli mu kusetinga oyinza otunula n'ogamba wow, this looks like a very good scenery okuba ekifaananyi naye ate wetegereza nti there is a lot of dust that lingers in the air of Nairobi era babadde bali bubi nnyo. So bagenza okubanga bakola Africa Climate Summit eno mu kibuga kya Nairobi ng'ate ne climate change after effects batandise okubanga bazifiiringa era badde balabako ku kike boogera mu byasinze okubanga bateesaako mu Africa Climate Summit eno kwe kubanga bafunye batya ensimbi ze basuubira ezigenda okubanga ziyamba okumitigatinga the effects of climate change. Kiki kyentegeeza bano balabye nti buli mwaka government za Africa zijja kwetaaga okubanga zeefunamu ensimbi za obuwumbi 277 bwa dola $277 billion nga balowooza nti by wetunatuukira omwaka gwa 2030 tujja kubanga tusobodde okubanga twekolamu tucollecting ensimbi ezikunukkiriza mu $2.8 trillion. Zino bagamba zijja kuyamba okulwanisa enkyukakyuka y'embeera y'obudde oba climate change ate nga balowooza nti kino kirina kukwatibwamu Abafirika bo bennyini. Abafirika balinze nnyo amawanga g'abazungu okuvaayo gajje gasoosowaza ensonga zaabwe naddala ensonga za climate change naye balabidde ddala nti bali tebagenda kusobola kubanga bakuyamba abazungu tebagenda kuyambanga mu buli kimu. So how then can African countries come together and raise these resources? Naye era kino kikyali kizibu wetwogereranga ne president waffe wakuno yaganye okubanga yeetaba mu Africa Climate Summit era talina muntu gwe yasindiseeyo oluvannyuma lw'okugamba mbu tewali kibasobola kubanga bamulekityalinga ku nkyukakyuka y'obudde ng'ate omuntu amulekityalinga ye omuntu asinze okubeera gwe waliise the biggest emitter abamu ku basinze okubanga boonoona obutonde babadde balina guest speaker okuva ggwanga erya US ku Africa Climate Summit eno President Museveni yabiganye teyabaddeyo ndowooza n'eggwanga lya South Africa Cyril Ramaphosa naye teyabaddeyo naye abakulembeze ab'enjawulo bazze wamu mu kibuga Nairobi okubanga basobola okubanga bafindinga solutions to the increasing climate change problems. Twalabe ne President wa Kenya William Samoei Ruto nga yeevuga mu mmotoka ya Kenya yasookedde ddala ey'amasanyalaze ngaffe we tulina wano Kiraka nabo balinayo emmotoka zaabwe ez'amasanyalaze. So President Ruto yabadde mu kamotoka katono ka amasanyalaze ka yellow kasobodde okubanga yeevuga n'ava mu maka g'obwa president paka wali ku Kenyatta Convention Center gye babadde basinziira okubanga baholdinga this year's Africa Climate Summit in that particular regard. Yeo egana si birungi endowooza wetwogeranga ebyennyanja byeyongedde okubanga biggwa mu Atlantic Ocean naddala wali ku paati ya Ghana mu mbeera eyo bagezezaako ennaku zino bagezaako okubanga banoonya ebyennyanja naye ebyennyanja bigenda biggwa mu water bodies ez'enjawulo. Kino nno tekiri mu Atlantic Ocean naddala e Ghana wokka naye ne wano okukomawo mu Lake Victoria bakugamba ebyennyanja ebyali bikwatibwa emyaka 10 emabega si bye ebyennyanja ebikwatibwa kati. So what can we do about aquatic life? Because that is an ecosystem of its own. Tusobola tutya okubanga tukuuma embeera y'ebyennyanja naddala mu mayanja ne gassemayanja ag'enjawulo because climate change nabo gye bali eyo ayongedde okubanga aba affectinga mu mbeera eyo. Katumalize ne Kigali eyo. Kigali waliyo omwami yakwatiddwa naye omwami ono abadde akwata natta abantu bamusanze nga alina ekinnya mu ffumbiro lye kye yasima mubaddemu emirambo ndowooza 10 egy'abantu abadde akwata n'atuga abamu n'abasalako ebitundu ebyenjawulo ate bamubuuza kiki ekibadde kimukozesa bino yagambye nti abadde abirabanga mu firimu kwegamba kirabika ebintu naye abadde abyegomba byabadde alaba abantu abadde abatta obanga ababucharinga mu mbeera etali nnuŋŋamu byannaku nnyo nnyo naye byonna bikyali wano ku lukalu lwa Africa ate of course ku nsi mwe tuwangaalira naye poliisi y'e Kigali yamaze dda okubanga emukwata era agenda kubanga atandika okusasulira emisango gye mu mbeera. Omuzikirize mpumulemu enkomawo Farida agenda kuneegatako n'omwami Rogers Tulyahabwe tube nga tunyumiramu nammwe paka ku ssaawa 4 zennyini. Mwebale kubanga mutwekuumiddeko. Eno ye Mighty Drive, nze Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. Let's go for a short commercial break. We'll be right back.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, Bikoda. Did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Looking for a pair of shoes? Les Hub Stores has a wide range of selection for unisex footwear. We have the best quality of all brands at pocket-friendly prices, and we make deliveries countrywide. Just place your order or reach us on 0772 08 0090. You can also check up at Les Hub Stores on all our social media platforms. Les Hub, craft your own footprints.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Are you craving for that special meal that will entice your taste buds and leave you with lasting thrilling memories? Look no further. Spice Island Bulenga has got your answer. Natural, fresh and delicious juice, the best meals. Don't miss our daily specials from Monday to Sunday. Pizza Wednesday, Saturday Pizza Bonanza, you buy one and take two. Come dine with us and feel the experience. We are located at Prime Shopping Center in Bulenga, Mitiana Road. For inquiries, call us on 0704111720. Spice Island, we treat your cravings.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Are you craving for that special meal that will entice your taste buds and leave you with lasting thrilling memories? Look no further. Spice Island Bulenga has got your answer. Natural, fresh and delicious juice, the best meals. Don't miss our daily specials from Monday to Sunday. Pizza Wednesday, Saturday Pizza Bonanza, you buy one and take two. Come dine with us and feel the experience. We are located at Prime Shopping Center in Bulenga, Mitiana Road. For inquiries, call us on 0704111720. Spice Island, we treat your cravings.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Mukulikeyo mukuumulamu okwo eddakiika ziri 10 ezibulayo okuwera ssaawa 3 ez'okumakya. Nze Edgar Mathew Karuhanga nga nabasuubiza negattiddwako Farida Bikobere n'omwami Tulyahabwe tube nga tumulungulamu ku nsonga ezigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga. Muzikirize nyanirize omumbejja w'Ebunyoro Farida Bikobere namala okufuna obujulizi nti ebyaddala mumbejja w'Ebunyoro. So I can call you. I can call you the princess of Bunyoro authoritatively. So you're welcome. Rina Limpakana.
Thank you, Edgar. Good morning. Bana abatokeredde ko ku Alternative Digitalk. Njagala okubaaniriza tuli ku Mighty Drive akakuba kakedde okutonya naye tekakugaana genda kukola akakalimu koli mu kwebakiriza ogaana. Leero kale kandwalewo nja kukuba ngambe ndi mulwadde naye nga nkuba waliwo akanoonya nga bwana akakwata mukwano ne bweneebe etonye kuva ku mukaaga essaawa emu ejja kumusanga ku office. So akalimo ko kawe ekitiibwa osobola okuba nga ate munnange ofuna kyolya ove mu kusabiriza mujja kufuna mu bantu entondo nga mubasaba babamma nga bw'otandika okukolima oyo ensi aligiraba ensi ebikolimo by'enkoko tebiyita kamunye genda okole ezizo. Our quote of the day before Rogers comes in: climate change is sometimes misunderstood as being about changes in the weather. In reality, it is about changes in our everyday life. Climate change is sometimes misunderstood as being about changes in the weather. In reality, climate change is about changes in our daily life. Onywedde akachupako n'okasuula mu mwala. Mukwano ekyo kyoli mukola, it is one of the causes ezisu ebiri mu kutuleeta no crisis kuba nti tufuna oba enkuba bwejjejja nnyingi nnyo netwala buli kimu ate oba omusana bwe gwaka ne gwaka muyitirivu nnyo ensobola nga byonna bye wasiga mu nnimiro tolina kyokunguddeyo. Tubeere basaale nnyo mu kukuuma obutonde kubanga kye kintu kyokka ekisobola otuwanirira yadde tetulina kasente nosigala ng'okyassa omukka tegugulwa ssente. So bannaayi ndowoozaako kabe mugende nako olunaku lwali olwaleero abanyumira ate bannaye no week ng'etandika sacrifice one day sobola okuwanga kubanga owaayo olubuto lwo chance okubanga lweke omubiri gwo gukirinze nga you fast you will not die. Good morning, Rogers.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Why is everybody laughing?
I do not know you guys whether you do not fast or not.
My name is Rogers. It's a great honor to hear this one.
I do not know Rogers. Why are you laughing?
I agree with you. And I agree with Farida. You don't die, you guys, if you fast. It's healthy, first of all, but it's also spiritually healthy. Yeah. It's physically healthy, but it's also spiritually healthy. Oh. So please fast if you must.
If you cannot fast,
I know. You can fast. Everyone can fast. It's just a decision you have to make. It's a game of the mind.
Rogers, everybody has their own life.
Yeah. Unless if you have health conditions. Unless if they have a healthy condition that cannot allow.
I have friends here I work with. No, but for me I can fast. I have learned something that there is a great strength when you learn to
starve yourself.
To starve the body. No, this thing. You see, a human being is broken down in three personalities. There is the body, there is the spirit, and the soul. Whether you want or you don't want, it's actually there are three. So sometimes, almost all the times, when you when you punish this body and you said ngenda kupunishinga omuntu owomuntu afuna amaanyi kyoyogeddeko nti no spiritually it's good, but also ne health y'omuntu bagamba weetaaga okukola ki fasting. Fasting is a form of detox. Yeah, you are detoxing the body at the end of the day. So omuntu akugamba okusiiba akutali mu kukudaalira kati gwatasobola okusiiba, the one thing you can do is wait until you are hungry to eat. Yes, let me tell you, human mind is very, very interesting.
Like sometimes you just find yourself wanting to eat.
Not even wanting to eat. You see, the mind is interesting. The mind is not kastojigirize ekintu. Yo chebala. So there are people who eat nga ye azukuse kulia like
atayogera bwoto chiwulika.
No, nga chili programmed nti no nja kukeera ndi
why is she on the defensive?
Because she knows that people like I enjoy those things of eating. So I'm telling you, there are people who wake up kugamba nyikusabbiri ngenda kulia. Then kusaba mukaaga nja kwongera akala kanaitawo kumusanvu ndye lunch kukumi ndye kwemwezi ndye nokunyandye. It's programmed in them. Era ye wanatuka kumusanvu nga tanali enjala ejja muluma naye nga obwongo bwe bumugamba nti enjala ekola ki
by this time you should be eating.
When they told you it's breakfast, they did not mean that you have to eat every morning. It is you are breaking the fast, so you can break the fast you've had throughout the night at any time. Also deciding ngenda kulya ku musanvu sobola okulya ku mwenda byango omubiri gwetaaga okulya
ate ne kumacha okubeera gwetaaga nze nyinza otuuka wano ng'enjala ekuluma bambi
awo ng'olya nawe ng'olya because obulamu olina obulamu bwe at the end of the day. Farida, otandise n'ensonga ya climate change era njagala gye tusandikirako. First of all, waliwo Africa Climate Summit abadde egenda maaso
ne Kenya waffe kumpi wano
naye ebisinza okuba nga interestingamu is that Africa nayo ekizibu kya climate change kitutuuseeko. When you looked at Nairobi wabadde era mbadde ngamba abantu mawulire nti right now it is one of the most polluted cities in Africa. Firstly, ate yekyabwe kirimo evident that n'empewo kati gye bassa yonna erimu enfuufu nyingi. Era I was reading a story of one bus driver yagambye nti tosobola kukolera mu Nairobi kumala myaka 10 ng'okola mulimu gwa bus driver ng'omanyi bulinaku okeerera kukuba okole paka kiro. Nagamba kiba affectinga nnyo era ba drivers bangi abalwadde ebirwadde ebyenjawulo. So
ebyamawugwe.
Yes, bw'otunuulira embeera ya Nairobi eri bubi. Wano mu Uganda ekizibu kyalina paka kati kyekizibu kya plastics. You have a lot of plastics. So we babadde eri mu Kenya badde bafindinga how Africans themselves can find solutions to climate change. Nga Africa nga tetulinze bali abazungu bajje batuyambeko. So njagala nsooke picking your mind ko walowoozezza ki ku summit eno n'ekya president okugaanira ddala okugibeera president waffe.
President okugaana to some extent he's right. Because tetwagala muntu ave US nga USA ye second country mu polluting environment, releasing carbon emissions, abakulembedde ye China. So kakati okubwe bagamba mbu Africa fe percentage ya carbon emissions je tulirizinga okugenda mu banga ntono nnyo.
It's 4% to be
Thank you.
specific.
Naye ate okuba nti bazze bagala bateeke Africa wano ku mwanji ebere nga ye driving okubanga tulwanyise kya carbon emissions mu atmosphere. It is not right. Kubanga bo be balina percentage ennene. What have they done? Nga tebanajja waffe.
They are the global emitters.
Yes. So what are they doing? What they is they want Africa to spearhead this drive of by
because you're the ones who are okay. Okay, muli at least okay compared to
so
them.
So abatali okay, what are
Boba,
they doing? Not exactly. The question is, what are they doing? Nga tebanajja kutandika kutugamba ffe abafiriko abanaye tutumanyi nnyo mbu baagala nnyo so nga be bagamba Africa etereze bo we bagenda mu maaso n'okugira n'okwonoona because tugenda okulaba aba UAE bonoona, they are not stopping. Naye bavaayo ne bajagamba mulina okolawo muti, you should plant trees, you should do this, you should do everything. They are right kubanga fena twetaaga environmentally clean. Omuntu ayagala okussa omuko oguli clean. But have they stopped emitting the emissions? If they are stopping, then it is okay. If they are not, what are they doing?
So you support our president refusing?
Yes, I support him. For the first time, I am in support. I am in support of his
But
decision.
just quick ones, okay. Because this is the first of its kind on the African continent, yeah? Africa Climate Summit. And it's Africans spearheading the climate change problem to change their problem in their continent themselves. And of course, bafunye omuntu ayina mu experience, ababadde bayonona.
Edgar,
tumuyigireko.
Katukireete bwe tuti. Omuntu mu example janategeera. Tulimo tukatugeze it is family planning je twagala okwogerako. And then a man who has 10 kids is coming to lecture you who has 1. Mbuno munango ino okwekuuma obutazaala abaana bangi nnyo kubanga abaana bangi bali very expensive okumaintaininga ye ine 10 goyina kamu atandise okulecturinga tonnaweza naawo yadde gyolaga
so that you don't face the same problems you're facing.
That's why. Ndiye yakirabyeko.
Exactly. Singa ye eyazadde 10 ya stoppinze. Okuzaala. Netugamba banaye nazaala 10 naye bammenya. Naye ayina 10 omukazi ali lubuto. Agenda zaala 11. Gwoyina omu no tonna wakisa na kufuna wakubiri. Naye atandise okulecturing on how it is very dangerous okubeera n'abaana abangi. It is hypocritical. Bayina ekirala kye babala.
Okay, Rogers, Gumundabayo. Olabamka hypocrisy. Because for me, I'm looking at it from a perspective of these people have been the global emitters. They have faced the problems of climate change. Most of Singapore and Africa, they're trying to prevent, you from falling in the same pit they fell in. What do you think, Rogers?
Okay. For me,
and by the way, climate change enthusiast. Environmentalist.
That's putting me on the spot. But okay, for me, I think it's two ways. I don't think the president was right to refuse because this was the Africa Climate Week. Summit, rather. Yeah. The Africa Climate Summit. And the idea was that we, as Africans, were trying to find a solution to the problem because it seems the people, the biggest emitters, as she said, are not doing what they're supposed to do. At the previous COP27,
in Egypt,
one of the things that stood out was loss and damage, which was aimed at making sure that the people who are the biggest emitters do pay to cover those losses and mitigate some of those issues that come along with the climate problem.
I mean, these people are talking about Europeans,
mostly Europe and the US, and Asia, China, of course, in that case. So I think he should have gone, or at least sent a representative, in the spirit of as Africa, what is it that we can do? I think that he should have done. Although I still, to an extent, agree with him, I do not think it's fair for the US to be one of the biggest emitters, to be the one to come and also tell us what to do without committing themselves to doing something. When that gentleman, John Kerry, was speaking, he said they cannot be forced to pay loss and damage because they are not the only ones. And you would understand their rationality. But they're also the same people who benefit from the very least that is still remaining that is holding us in the world. It comes from Africa. And of course, that goes without saying that only 4% is what whole Africa, meanwhile, the biggest continent, contributes only 4%, and then the rest is contributed by them. So I think I agree with her. It was hypocritical, but I also appreciate.
I think the president saw there was no will by those countries to mitigate the emissions because abantu gira ne bagana tugenda kubanga tukwate sente weziti okuwaayo abali mu kulwanyisa. Did they release the money?
They did. They committed, by the way.
They committed, but they didn't release the money. That means there is no will.
They have not yet released the cash itself.
Yeah, they haven't.
They released a bit of it.
Even at the summit, that gentleman committed from the U.S. government $3.5 billion, I think $billion, yes, and the Arab countries committed about 4.5, I think 4.5, and the African Development Bank 25 billion, and the USAID 3.5 million, I think 25 million, if I'm not mistaken, $1 million. So I think they are trying to do, but what they are doing is not enough, if you are being honest.
Okay.
Because the biggest problem is them, not us. When the problems are happening, they are the ones who are using those fossil fuels. They are the ones who are exploiting the more. That's actually in Africa, for your information. Most of the world's leading fossil fuel producers are companies that are based in Europe and the US and all of those countries. Yeah. But they are not reducing on any of those. They're not making policies to reduce on the use of fossil fuels to promote renewable energy. So for you to come here and give us 3.5 billion and then go back and still literally extract the same things from Africa and even emit them more, it doesn't make any sense. That's where the hypocrisy comes in. Okay, you're giving with one hand and taking the more. In fact,
let's first put aside the hypocrisy because it may be there. Because everybody has an interest at the end of the day, and of course everybody has priorities. But let's look at it from our perspective of Africa. We have reached a time where we're experiencing climate change effects now. First, I was telling people a story here that you go to Ghana, the Atlantic Ocean of Ghana, right now, the Atlantic side of Ghana, there's no longer fish in the sea. You look at Lake Victoria here, they're telling you how, we had to institute the military to protect the sea, because the lake, because look at Nairobi, the city is as polluted as it can be. Look at Kampala. Kampala has been ranked the most polluted city before in Africa, one of the biggest. So the climate change effects are here. How do we mitigate them as Africans? Because I feel there is also a problem, there is a knowledge gap here in Rogers. Is there any comment on that?
Yes, I think we have two big problems. One is that I don't think as Africa we are seeing this as a problem, or at least we are prioritizing it as a problem, because every time those discussions come up, leaders have a way of evading the discussions and saying that's just the imperialists trying to move their agendas. It's an agenda that is coming from the north, and for that matter, the south. It's not our thing. So it's true that Africa, as ones we have contributed. It's true that the pollution we have also done on our own. We are doing so much, and we are feeling the effects. And we are not committing anything, by the way, for that matter. We are looking at the north for the solutions to come from there.
And just to give you a point of knowledge here, I was reading a statistic in Nairobi that every year 8,000 people die because of the bad air. 8,000 people.
Every year.
But
in Nairobi, only one Nairobi. So you can imagine what goes around the continent. So for me, I also think that African countries are not doing their best. When you, as looking at some of the discussions and what the commitments they were giving, and none of the countries were actually committing any amount of money. The discussion was that the North should forfeit their loan that African countries are owed, so that money can contribute. Meanwhile, what we need to move to renewable energy, particularly for that one, they were saying we need about 277 billion every year. I think every year for 10 years.
That will constitute a total of $2.8 trillion.
Yes, for until 2030 to be able to sort of be at par with. But now we are playing catch up. None of the African countries have said, you know what, as a country we are doing this, or we are committing this and that. We are all playing fall and crying fall. we are not really doing so much. I commend them. Africa Development Bank committed some amount of money, but none of the individual countries is coming out to bring a solution to the table and say, this is what we put to the table. You as another country put this, that put this, you put that, see what we can do. Nothing like this happening. No, the problem we're having is we are importing solutions from the north. If they say this is what works, we say, okay, let's do that. When they say this is what works, then we jump onto it. Exactly. The one show fits all kind of thing.
We have always been following, even in everything, by the way, from the past, even in how we handled COVID. It was always what they say.
The solutions are always adopted.
Is what we do. We have never
willingly and obediently.
Even in terms of our education, we always tailor what they tell us.
But if one of the biggest emitters is not committing money to reducing the emissions in the atmosphere, why would you want an African country to commit a certain amount of money?
Because it's
if the US said we cannot commit such an amount of money because we are not the only emitters, they would want China to first
commit. This one is,
and then Japan also commits.
Farida, we have come up as Africa. We don't care what the other people are doing. But the reason why they set up that,
what we would be agreeing or discussing now is Africa should be finding solutions as them, not us looking for people from the
that's what we're trying
from the West to come and give us solutions to what we should be doing.
But the question is, we have a challenge here. The money they have set a very ambitious amount,
target,
$277 billion. It looks very good if it's not stolen. The solution of, you forgive us for the debt, we shall find out whether that one is not practical. But even we have had challenges.
It's very less, it's like 20-something billion.
No, but even if it was that, the moment you tell Africa we have forgiven you those debts, it is now a new agenda, right? We're going to go for more debts, for more loans. Farida, what I want to find out from you exactly is, will we be able to sustainably implement the recommendations made in this summit? For example, the $277 billion. When we cannot even raise the African Union tariffs that we're supposed to pay there, there are many countries, Uganda inclusive, that has not paid the annual subscription to be member of African Union. Can we go for the...
Still one will wonder, did they implement the recommendations they made last year in Egypt?
At COP.
If they didn't, then they will not implement this one.
Because we're having conversations, really.
No,
it is now...
The conversation is, for now, is all we can have, because we do not have an implementation mechanism. We have no enforcement. So everything someone says, it's only persuasive. They can do, they cannot do. You won't force them to do it.
It's not legally binding.
I thank you very much. It's not legally binding. So anyone can give speech, do lip service, and that's the end of it. So until we have an enforcement mechanism, these are going to be the things. Whoever wishes to actually commit, they will commit. Whoever doesn't, what are you going to do?
Exactly.
It's the same thing that the US is doing. One of the biggest committers, one of the extractives, by the way, that are also benefiting from resources from Africa that are climate unfriendly. It's also saying we can commit to this, but you can't force us to give it. And they are right. They are true.
It's true. So, impose the climate change.
No, I think generally, as if the world really was committed to that problem, to solving that problem, we should have an enforcement mechanism.
I think
there
is no will from the West to mitigate.
Even the South here in Africa,
but here in
the will is not there. The will is nowhere.
Yes, please.
Everyone is playing for it is them, it is them, it is them.
It says that there is no will in the whole world.
Generally, I think governments are not willing to go an extra step.
Then where does this leave the fight for climate change? Because you guys, we might be saying there is no goodwill, but the reality is climate change is here.
Yeah,
whether you want it, and it has caught up with Africa at a time where Africa is also trying to look for resources under the ground. You've heard of what is happening in Nigeria, what is happening in Uganda here, Nigeria itself. What do we do, Farida?
Not until our leaders have the goodwill. Us as citizens, we cannot do anything. Because we do not have the capacity and ability to go and maybe foster certain things or resolutions, so we cannot do anything as the citizens of the country.
But you see that's the problem with Africa. Africa has, for a long time, always been there at the mercy of God. I was looking at, you people, I was looking at a worrying statistic that, those continents have, instruments that detect changes in weather.
Mm.
So
we
US will know that there is maybe a hailstorm
coming.
They'll know there's
Even
a
here in
hurricane.
Uganda we have.
Yes, there's no problem. We have even in Africa. I think they have over 400 something machines here in Africa that monitor the whole of Africa. 37. And of the 37 are here, I think more than a half is already not working. So generally, Africa has always been there by the mercy of God. And come to climate change, you're still asserting that there's nothing we can do. So let's look at the mercy of God.
Exactly.
As always.
No, not as always. But
Africa always is at the mercy of God. COVID, you didn't have to manufacture
vaccine. But to give an example, Wanongamo, Uganda, if the president has no goodwill to fight a climate crisis, as citizens of the country, we cannot do anything. Because byonna kyetagamu akasente oba kyetagamu okugenda mu bantu okubasomesa and all that kind of thing. So there needs to be the goodwill of the leaders of the country. If there is no goodwill, we cannot do anything.
Kati tuveeko ku nsonga ya climate change. Tutandikiddewo kuwange ebadde in line with your quote. Naye era njagala tusooke leero tugenda kubeera nnyo ku continent because bingi ebitu affecting Africa on the continent ebigenda mu maaso. So recently baatukkiriza okwegatta ku coalition empya eya Brics. Brics gwe mukago gw'amawanga agatakkiriza mu guno mukago naddala ogwa United. Kale bagukkiririzaamu naye baagala kutandikawo an alternative agenda. So baatandika coalition endala. So tubadde ne coalition ngeya G7, G20 gye wawuliddeko kati twafuse G20 wano ku Africa Union bagigaseeko. Wotunulamu Africa eri in the middle of everything. Firstly, mu Brics twalabe bagaseeko amawanga ga Africa ndooza nga asatu kuliko
Ethiopia, Egypt,
kuliko ne Egypt, I think.
Bali mutusosowaza.
Bali mutusosowaza. Then wotunulamu ne G20 ne G20 baatuyise dda kati tufuse permanent member w'ogwo omukago tugenda beerangako mu decision making. I'm going to start with you, Rogers. What is this interest that is coming from the foreign agencies? Why is everybody interested in Africa today?
Okay, first of all,
twabadde ko ne Russia, Russian Africa Summit. Twabaddeyo yetuleetedde emirimu enya. Then twabaddeko ne mu USA Africa Summit.
Those embarrassing meetings. But first of all, I think it's a good step that the African countries are also edging a bit into those international bodies. The G20 is sort of an economic cooperation where countries, the world's biggest economies, sort of come together. Most, I think, they have ministers, finance ministers and stuff like that, come together to sort of find policies and directions to some of the pressing global issues. Because the coming of the G20, really, the formation in the 1990s, after that Mexican peso crisis, there was a lot of crises around that time. The China itself, the Asian crisis, economic crisis, and all of those things. I think the coming of the G20 was so that it can support the Bretton Woods institutions, that is the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, to be able to sort of give clarity and direction to the economic policies and how they can be implemented. So G20 in itself is okay, as much as it does not also have an enforcement mechanism. It's only a persuasive, again, which is one of the problems. It does have effect and impact on the global policy, because those discussions come from the leading economies and the economies that actually do fund the World Bank and the IMF, which has most of the international monetary structures. So Africa being a part of it is interesting. I think it's something to celebrate to begin with. As to whether we shall benefit from it is another thing.
No, but you've not answered my question.
I was about to.
What is the interest now? Why is
the interest of them having us join?
And I'm going to speak this without fear of contradiction or favor. Is that this continent has always been looked at as a black continent, a dark continent, a continent of slaves, a continent of resources, just exploitation. Yeah. Right? From time immemorial, starting from how they, broke us up, how they divided these colonies to be among themselves. Even after we were given independence, they remained with that invisible hand in most of our policies, even up to today. But right now, everybody is trying to affiliate with Africa. What is that strategic interest or opportunity that Africa has that all of them keep on coming?
No, you see, the thing is, colonialism has to shift a bit. It cannot work the way it used to. So these days you have, because you see what is happening to France and the West Africans.
Exactly.
So you cannot have a direct control.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing sometimes, and this is my own opinion, the ways where you're going to have to get something from, for example, Africa, with very many players expressing interest, is to sort of be a part of those institutions that can sort of extract. Because now you cannot do it individually, you can get it collectively. So I think it's extractive in nature. It's possible that it's one of the ways for the North to still be able to extract from Africa, but it still doesn't take away the fact that it's also still gives us a chance. If we can open our eyes as Africans, again, we cannot always play at the mercy of the other side. As Africans, what is it that you are willing to do? If you have come to the table, what is it that you can do? Why don't always be at the receiving end? If they are coming to extract from you and you can see it, what can you do about it? At least you're sharing the same table with them now. We are part of the G20. We are now joining the Brics, which is sort of the rival for the G7, the leading economies in the world. In Africa now we have South Africa, we have Ethiopia, we have, I think, one or two other countries. I'm not sure.
In the Brics?
Egypt, yes, in the Brics now.
Egypt, South Africa,
and that is trying to counter.
Ethiopia.
That is trying to counter the G7. Those Canada, the US, the UK, and all of those. So as Africans, we cannot always be at the other end, at the receiving end. You can't always say, they are taking from us, they are extracting. It's imperialism, it's extractivism, it's colonialism. What are you doing?
We can't always be lamenting.
We cannot always be at that. And that's the same problem we are facing with climate change. Because we are crying every single now and then. It's true we may not have all the resources, but we also have the raw materials that the others use as the resources. What is it that we can do? What are we willing to put on the table? So our being a part of the G20, it's true they could have ulterior motives as the North, but as the South Africans, what is it that we can do? So as an individual, I still see it as a milestone. It's upon us to be able to earn from it.
It's upon us to use our position there.
Thank you so
much.
much.
For them to use us.
Yeah. At the end of the day, let me tell you,
For them to use us, find out what another or.
Three things are the most expensive. Every single time you get something, you give something even more. So as Africans, I think we need to stop lamenting. If you have been given, let's say given, again, that space at that table, can we utilize it?
Have we been given or we qualify to be there?
That's our whole discussion.
Do we qualify to be there or we have been given? No, we qualify, I think. I believe.
Not qualify.
I am not arrived to how the Africa joined the G20. And a lot of people have been commending Narendra Modi, the president of India, because he was the president of the G20. Now it's moving to, I think, Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So some people have credited Narendra for his fight to make sure that Africa joins the G20. But we also had South Africa as a part of the G20. South Africa was part of the G20 before Africa joined. I want to know if I've had any discussion where South Africa was fronting Africa as a whole.
When you are talking about Africa, there are some things that we should also bear. South Africa doesn't even consider itself part of Africa, if you did not know.
And what does that say about Africa?
That brings me to another problem that Africa may have. Because we're looking at the countries that,
a country that has Africa as its second name doesn't consider itself to be an African country.
South Africa has always never considered itself an African country.
So?
Listen, even in the past when they are starting, I think, the United Nations, which African countries were added to the UN at the time? I think there was Egypt, and remember Egypt got their independence in 1922. There was Ethiopia. Ethiopia was never colonized in the first place. There was Liberia. Liberia was just that state that nobody really owned. It was a free state. It was a free state, no man's land. It was where most of the slaves were taken. So even in the inception of the United Nations, before even we come to our countries, there was never really an intentional motive. I'm South Africa, yeah. South Africa was also added, but at the time it was under the colonization of the administration of the white man, right? Apartheid policy, apartheid government at the time. So realizing that the intention behind, look at Brics in other countries they first added. They first added Egypt, they first added Ethiopia.
Even in South Africa, because of the original it was BRIC. The Brazil, Russia, what was the I?
India,
yes, India and China. There were those ones. And then they added South Africa.
So there is something that is on the African continent. First of all, Africa is divided already because there are those Arab-led countries. They are the black.
They don't feel like they are part of us.
Africans,
The Tunisians
and Egypt.
Yes,
even Egypt.
There is a moment I was reading one of the books of Professor Karuhanga one of those days, and Professor Karuhanga talks about a trip they had to Libya. They went to Libya in 1986 when he was still Minister of Commerce. So he goes and they are talking about the issue of Sudan at the time. Remember, in 1986, Sudan was still fighting between Northern Sudan and Omar
and
Bashir
now South Sudan.
And now South Sudan. So Museveni tells Gaddafi, according to Karuhanga, that the only solution that can help this challenge of Sudan is it's going to be a democratic process of let them go through a democracy. Omar, I stand with, by then it was this gentleman who passed on in 2005, I'm forgetting the first vice president of South Sudan. What was his name? Garang, yes. So let them go. And according to Karuhanga, Gaddafi speaks in a loud voice that no, we cannot allow a black man to rule an Arab country. And Museveni, with the same tone, reiterates to Gaddafi that I am a black man here, and this gentleman says, you are my friend. That's how Gaddafi answered Museveni. For you,
you are my friend. You have no.
For you, there is no problem. You have my friend. But do you understand that it was preconceived in him that a black man cannot rule an African country. For him, he called it an Arab country, but it's an African country as well. So it shows you that also Africa is already divided at the end of the day, Farida.
Yeah, that is true.
So how can we address, what can we gain really from the membership there? Is there something we are really gaining?
There is, because ababetwala okubanga the countries of the Arabs, they will gain, because for them, they will always side with the Western countries. So by so doing, they will gain from them. And us as the Africans, we will not.
Do we even know what we want? That's the
yes,
question.
we don't take us to that level, Edgar.
I feel we're just being invited to the party.
I think
I think we know what we want. I think as Africans know.
You asked her what is it that we can do? If I'm not mistaken.
We can get or do.
What can we get? Okay, what can we get? I think they might have invited us for representational purposes, just to feel like Africa is a part of it. So when things are happening, they do not feel like hey, we have been left behind. And all
I feel like those countries that are being represented, that take themselves to be Arab countries, there is a way they benefit from the West. No, as compared to us.
Yes, that's true.
Again, I still. It's
And
possible.
the way they work with Morocco is not the way. Is it the way that the West works with Morocco the same way they work with Uganda?
They may not, but again, I agree with you. But I don't want to entirely put it to that, because Morocco could have different arrangements with another country that we may not have. But that's besides the point. As a continent, I think we need to give more power to the African Union, really, because it's more like just an office. A lot of things happen here, the AU does not say anything.
Exactly.
When the things
That's
happen,
what I was
the AU
going to
does
come
not pronounce itself. No country seems to be respecting the African Union, and there's no way are going to benefit if the African Union is.
Look at what has been happening in Niger and the rest of those West African countries, right? And the African Union has always been speaking about it. What has changed?
Nothing.
So again, if we are going to benefit, I think we need to empower the African Union to begin with, because we are all in that. For example, the G20 under the AU. So if the AU cannot represent us, then
I think
we
an
are-
institution gets power from its emergency and why it was put there. So why was the African Union formed?
No, ordinarily.
And the objectives being formed. If they are not, then it will not get any powers.
Exactly. So until we empower the African Union, we are there for representation. We are feeding the gap.
But I also feel
Checking
I
about-
also feel it's also another scramble and petition, but this one is more advanced and modern because it comes at a time when Africa has been siding on a lot of global issues. And Africa has been making a lot of policies that affect the global spectrum of things. Look at Africa from a perspective of we've been influential in Russia, we've gone to Russia. Many African countries, they abstained during the United Nations decision to what happens next to Russia. Many of them are abstained. They are not supporting, but they are not condemning. That means for someone who really wants to speak the truth, this one is supporting. And it feels like the world is divided and everybody is looking for allies, Roger.
I think Russia is using this moment to grab Africa to his.
Exactly. Everybody is trying to bring, even China has been trying to pull. Russia is trying to pull. USA is also saying, Russia is taking most of the guys in Africa to scale.
So that I feel like they are part of us.
Exactly.
I think it's
patronage.
Russia and China are taking advantage of the West of Europe and America. Because most of those are extractive, and the African countries have opened their eyes to that effect. So these ones are sort of trying to provide the alternative, which is the same as the exact reason why we have the Brics. They have the new development. Is it new development bank? The Brics have that, which is more like a rival to the IMF and World Bank. So they are also trying to sort of influence the global geopolitics using those means. So they are taking advantage of this, and you can't blame them, honestly. Everyone wants their interests to also go foreign, and because at the end of the day it benefits them. But again, every one of them has their own interests at the end of the day.
Yeah.
As Africans, what are we doing about ourselves?
The thing is, the problem is, but is it zigenda kuyamba ffe bannayuganda? Because platforms ezo,
For as long as we have.
waliwo abantu abasobola
benefiting
okugenda,
some way.
no, some people gain things for themselves. We also have that challenge here. People go to meet leaders, to meet in such forums, but the things they bring back are, let's say, state priorities, not really the priorities of the people themselves, but some people have interest. For example, things like guns, things like that. Sometimes that may not be affecting the people themselves.
Are they the issues that are affecting you as a country? If yes, then we might benefit.
Let's hope for the best.
Affecting us, then we are only there for representation.
Let's hope for the best.
I'll give you this, and again, like I said, it's about interest. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, Uganda was ranked Russia's biggest market in 2022, importing weapons worth $48 million out of the 55 million. And so you will see that at the end of the day, everyone is trying to fend for themselves.
That's what
they might give you lesser punitive or whatever that time I can use policies or provisions, but at the end of the day, it's their interest. And that just goes without saying.
And their interest is your interest as a Ugandan here.
And if you're Ugandan, let's put it in the local context. You're Ugandan. There's a war in Congo. Uganda has army there. Do you really think it's entirely about the security of Congo? At the end of the day, it's about your interest, foreign interest. That's just how it works. Everywhere, that's how it works. So what we need to do as Africans is to just open our eyes and see how is it that we're also going to benefit from these spaces. Put up a fight. You can't always
the victim
and
mentality.
unfold yourself and expect other people to be giving you what you deserve.
The problem is when you are on a platform and you've always thought you are the weakest. So you
get
you
what
allow
that
others
inferiority complex. You already feel.
We are the weak. Let others talk.
And you get what you
And
deserve.
Africans should understand.
So they start thinking for you.
But you people, Africans should understand, as we finish this issue, that at the end of the day, we have always been the solution to the global problems. Even in the past, Africa has always been a solution to them. When they didn't have resources, they came here, right? When they needed slaves to work on their farms, In fact,
came to Africa.
they came, and the problem was a sugar problem. That's why I don't like sugar. Sugar brought slavery to Africa. I can spend a whole time talking about that. So when they needed that, even when Jesus was being crucified from his homestead, he had to run to Africa in Egypt for survival. No, I'm telling you, the thing is, Africa has always been a solution, but Africans have stayed poor, and that is something we need to change, really. Because you cannot be a richest continent with the poorest people. It does not make sense.
And it's up to Africans.
That's it. And the good thing that leaders of Africa today have started to understand that. That's the good thing. Leaders, I was hearing Museveni has always understood it. Yeah, Museveni has always been a Pan-Africanist and an African, champion. So
and he has always implemented.
No, sometimes the interest that of the people that brought him to power, you also have to balance. But the thing is, Museveni has loved his country. Guys, speaking of President Museveni, let's start from there. On, I think, Saturday, Friday, he was celebrating his birthday, 79. What is your message for President Museveni on his 79th birthday? I don't know why you dispute 79, but if he was born in 1944...
I've never seen his birth certificate.
If he was born in 1944...
I cannot comment. I cannot commit to his age. I have no facts to that effect. But
no, but is
just
that...
I
I mean, it's not for himself.
How old is Mr. Kanyehamba?
He's 84.
Kanyehamba is 84.
Yes, he's 84.
Because when Kanyehamba writes in one of his books when he met President Museveni, he said, I met this young man and he was about my age.
And his dad said, you are older than my son by 2 years. Museveni's dad. The foster dad.
Yes,
you know,
yes, I know him.
Tata we yamulemererwa namuwa.
Teyamulemererwa.
Anyway,
teyamulemererwa. Golemererwa masanga go. You read one of his books. How he ends up at Byanyima's home.
He lies in his book when you read.
So he's the one who speaks his truth.
No, because his second edition contradicts the first edition he wrote.
And he had to remove a few things.
Sowing the mustard seed. So then who is it?
What is your message to Mr. President as he celebrates his 79th birthday? Even if he's lying, hypothetically.
And maybe he's telling the truth. We cannot ascertain. And also, a man is as old as he wants. He can say he's 20 or 80.
For example, you're just sweet 16.
For example, I can be 13.
Yeah.
And
you can't be 13.
And it is okay.
But you can't be 13. Let's continue.
So, nzenga omukulembeze w'eggwanga as the situation is in the country, ku mazaalibwa ge yalibadde asalawo to make decisions that benefit the citizens of Uganda, not benefiting his family and the people around him. If only he can decide to do things that benefit the people of Uganda, ne bw'anaabeerako mu 2026 najja.
But everything
naye ng'agambye
benefit
amalwaliro temulimu ddagala, and then he puts people to fall up webe sente zirizingiddwa ani azisaininga, who is taking the money okuba nti tezituuka mu malwaliro. That's all we want as Ugandans. Because even if Bobi Wine comes and he is the president and we don't have medicine in the hospital, we are going to complain. So I don't think we need a new face. We need policies that are being implemented. We need service delivered as Ugandans. That's all. Singa ebyo Museveni abitukolera tetumuyinaako buzibu. Singa atukolera enguudo netabeera mu Kampala ng'omuntu bw'aba tasomye kapanda ayinza okulowooza tuli jjinja eri ewaffe mu kyalo. Tetumuyinaako buzibu. Kyetwagala ffe ng'Abannayuganda is service delivery. Enguudo nnungi, abaana mu masomero ebikozesebwa gye biri, obutabo gye buli, laboratory ziri equipped naddala mu government schools. Omwana asomedde mu government school agisoma nava mu P1 paka mu senior 4 nati ova mu UPE n'ogenda mu use. Nga takwatangako textbook yonna, tamanyi ne bwefaanana. And those are the people we are going to employ in the future.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then the employers will start complaining. Abana bebafulumya, they are not employable.
They are substandard.
They are substandard. So ekyo ekintu kiri mu system yekiteekawo singa Museveni yali abitereza tetumuyinaako buzibu. Singa ayina engeri gyawewulako ba investors abawano ne batababigika nnyo misolo. Ekyennaku nti ate ba foreign investors asobola okuba ba tax holidays. Nabaga kakati embeera mbi mwakatandika bizinensi yammwe mbawaddeyo emyaka 10 nga temusasula musolo. Singa neje emyaka 10 agiwa kuba investors abawana ewaffe n'atabateekako nnyo misolo mingi. Sajja ddala mu businesses thrive. Kiki twagala nga bannayuganda naye era ne mukulu Bobi Wine Kyagulanyi Ssentamu ne bwanajja n'abeera president waffe ebintu ne bisigalanga bwe biri era Uganda zibajja sigalanga bakaaba. So ffe gye twagaza omukulu omukulembeze w'eggwanga singa yeekubiriza mu myaka gye 79 niira ne bw'anaagamba nti kale ajja mu 2026 era 2026 egenda musanga nga wa 82. Yena musanga wa 82.
Amaanyi gajja kuba wakyali.
Ajja kuba takyalina kanza entunulira Kanyihamba ku 82 bwe yali atunula.
Bantu banjawulo. Abantu banjawulo.
82 oba okuze.
Yeah, but there is a gentleman, one of my ex-landlords. He was like 80s. Nenga omulaba musajja ali kiriya atambula bulungi talina tabula.
So tava ku line nga abannakibiina ebawogera.
Katugenda so katubuze Rogers president yawezezza emyaka 7 sabbiiti ewedde. Gobubaka kiboyina eri ono.
And the way Rogers laughs at the age, it seems yaine emyaka gy'amanyi.
Oba boyina emyaka emituufu gy'omanyi.
By Ethiopian standards, I'm about 16. Maybe the president is using Ethiopian calendar, but that's another discussion for another day. I congratulate you.
Ethiopian calendar, Ugandan calendar, you're still the same human being.
I congratulate the president upon the 79th birthday. It's God's favor really to live that long. But as for his celebrations, a man should celebrate. Anyone can celebrate if they want. The problem is using the state resources to do a personal initiative. I think that is not right, honestly speaking. And that goes for both him and a lot of other people, even his son. I think it's not fair to Ugandans at the very least. If you can do your birthday with your own resources, it's okay. Without using state institutions, without using our institutions and agencies, it's okay. You do your birthdays. You can throw it to in the city square, you can take it to Rajtura, you can take it to Washington if you like. But just don't use the state resources. So that's my only problem with him. Other than that...
How do you know Ndina considers state resources?
How do I know?
Yeah, because he's a rich man.
Did you know did you see what was at Korun?
I saw people basking in cakes and fighting for cakes.
Do you see how many people
This
were there?
generation, people with Upuveras.
People, do you know how many people were trekked here for that birthday? Do you want to tell me all of that was personal resources? Because I mean, it's a public secret, really. We all know.
You want to say the president cannot afford that?
He can't afford it, except he doesn't do it. He can afford it, but he doesn't do that. And really, we can try to say otherwise.
But we can agree it wasn't his personal resources because it was a party
Prepared,
organized.
but he was just
except for that.
That's the thing.
Now,
For
except
him.
for
That's
that,
what
maybe.
they say. That of course he did not put anything. It's the people who love him
Kapate
more around him.
bakamukoledde,
Abamukolera
yes,
kapate ke.
from the well
Bajjukire
wishers.
Katonga ne olutalo ngeri lwatambula.
Yeah.
No, again, even if it were other people, if it was state resources, it wasn't necessary.
The party
If it
wasn't
were
necessary.
individual money,
There's an individual was
Thank you
mentioning
very
4
much.
billion. For that event, they needed 4 billion, I think. That's like
if
$1 million.
it was the individual resources, they can go for a week even if they want. They can celebrate for another week or a year. if
Naye
they wish.
okubanga bajjukira abalwanyi b'e Katonga, I think that was okay.
For them, I think that was okay because they were remembering their comrades and fellows and all of that. As far as they are concerned and everyone else, it was a liberation struggle and they lost their lives, so it was fair that they remember them. I have no problem with celebration. I have absolutely no
The
problem.
only problem is them using
Is
state money to organize the celebration.
if they are using state resources to organize those functions.
Kusinziira ku
If it was
speeches z'abantu
Independence Day,
ezaayogerwa.
if it was Independence Day, I would accept for that one, even if they use it.
So they would have waited
if it
to
were
celebrate the birthday till
those
October
national
9.
celebrations, if it was a national celebration, I have no problem with it.
But there is a phenomenon of birthdays these days. President Museveni's birthday,
First
the son
son's
is also
birthday.
birthday.
No,
What's
the
wrong
son-
with the
Batambula gwanga
birthdays?
ddamba nga
the son's
baselebrate-
birthday is political.
Ba-
The question,
baselebrate
okay,
nga gwanga
I
ddamba.
have an alternative.
Tubatwalireko
I'm
ejjinya
thinking,
tucelebrating, tugendeko embale, tugendeko embalala, hoima everywhere.
if you never, because
They were all over the country.
is it bad for me to say at 79, Mr. Museveni, we should be talking about transition? Right now. My message to him would be transition. Would it be wrong?
No, it wouldn't be. But the problem is, will he take it? Take it in.
Do you think he does not know?
He knows. We all agree he knows.
Do you think he does not think about that? So, again, what underlies all of those notions and sentiments is just selfishness. That's it. Because we all know, even the people who are saying, Tova Kume, it's for selfish reasons. Everyone will shout,
inside them want him to kuva kume.
everyone of them knows it.
They want the main vehicle na
Just-
Naye kale
just
lwakuba nti
selfishness.
we bali abo, they have to sing the slogan.
I saw a publication today by, I think it was Daily News, if I'm not mistaken, about Gabon and that hosted ex-president, Bongo, Ali Bongo. And they were saying, at the end of the term, it's when you realize you actually had fake support.
Because he had won with 64%.
But was it there when he was being hosted?
It was not there.
He rigged it.
And the reason they
He
gave
rigged
him
the
was
election.
that
So
the
at the
reason
end
they
of the
gave
day,
him
you
was
realize
that
the
people
who
are tired.
The people who are shouting when you are there are doing it for selfish reasons, not
And
because
when
they
it
really
was time
support
for
you.
him to shout for them, like,
Hey, when you ask them
make
to make
noise,
Nobody made noise.
nobody made noise. Instead,
so we just
Because
need to
the
stop
thing is
selfishness,
this, if you were at 79, you brought this country from really, the doldrums. You've raised us from purely nothing, because let's speak the truth. By the time of 1986, when this gentleman and his group took power, the state confines were almost empty. Everything was dilapidated. Uganda's infrastructure was down. A lot of things were wrong.
I
at
don't
that
think
time.
they were down because they were up and went down. I think it was a developing nation.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
And at that point, that is what we could have done. It's not, so he's coming not because we were doing very well.
No, I'm not saying they're doing well.
and even if
For
we
me,
had
I-
gotten another president,
Yes,
we would have done the
of
same.
course. But what I'm trying to say, in the reality,
And we appreciate him for what
so
he has
for
done.
us, we are assuming that. But the reality was, he came, he transformed, he built the economy, he improved the infrastructure, he improved the education, he improved the
Infrastructure, he didn't.
infrastructure.
Let me ask
The
you.
roads he has constructed.
Let me
Now
ask
there is a
you.
lot of access to electricity. There is a lot.
Yes, we have changed.
That's the thing. That's what I'm
Not the way we
saying.
were.
We are not there.
But
so
you
right
see-
now, isn't it okay if we say after 37 years of having the contract, sir, you just go to Nyabushoji or to Mpungamu and just rest?
Yeah, I think that is fair.
Because I believe even the president himself.
I do agree with you, Edgar.
And it's not out of bad will.
And it's exactly when we say that because he has come since 1986 and he has done so many good things, which he always says, and he says he still has.
Which he has done.
He has done, but also when you go to a class and you perform very good, you don't decide to remain so you can keep performing.
Exactly.
Because it's
You have to promote to go to other
to
things.
another level.
Yeah, to another level. And that is the spirit, honestly. And speaking about the transition, it's not because we don't support him or we don't do any of those things. It's not because we are against him or whatever. It's that you have done your part.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. Well done.
You
good
have
and faithful
done-
servant.
Akatika kwasa omulala.
Let other people also do something. We have fresh perspectives. It's just all that people are saying. It's not that we do not appreciate what he has done. It's not to say that he has done the worst. There are other countries where people have done much, much, much worse. We are just saying, people are just saying, you know what? Thank you very much.
Because it's a time.
Please, can you
I think
rest?
for that period of
It's just
37 years, Museveni akoleddemu ebintu bingi, ebirungi, ebibi. So I think
And
when he
it's
sits
just like any other person. Anyway.
and thinks, he knows what might happen if he is not in power. Because no musango gwe wazango oli muto omukwano omuntu agenda mu mateeka n'akuwaabira.
No, but you see,
so
that's...
But at least even the people who are trying to challenge him, like Bobi Wine have openly even has repeated it on some of the processions he has had, that Museveni, if Museveni leaves now or by 2026, there is nothing that will be,
there can be that arrangement.
Nothing, and he has, and all of them have been open, because let's accept it. This person is a person we hold in high regard, with his flaws, with his successes. He's still someone we hold in high regard. As a country, I don't think there is anybody who's going to want to, crucify him and things like that. At least he can, I don't know. Okay, find a person you are shaping or you're grooming to take over your entity or your office. Mufune naye yana protecting the interests zo.
Ya mukwano gwe owa Libya. Alinza abantu bamuji.
But you cannot, tebasobola. And I don't want to be a prophet of doom, or I want to be a realist. Gaddafi style cannot work with Museveni, whether you accept it or you don't.
You see, Edgar,
it was NATO that kicked Gaddafi out of office.
It's impossible until it's possible.
I don't think NATO
it's
can.
Only always a matter of time, really. Even if it's a US president right now.
No, the dynamics are different.
No,
the
that's
dynamics
true.
are
I
different.
agree.
The dynamics are different.
I do agree.
Gaddafi is very extreme. That's why they had to go for him.
Really?
Museveni has always had, and let's accept it, Museveni has always had it's the hybrid, a balance. He is an extremist, but Museveni can be a Democrat as well.
Okay, so let's look at...
He is radical, but he can...
I agree with you, but let's not excuse this. So I want you to talk to other people who have been overthrown. You can go to Mugabe of Zimbabwe. You can go to the Ali Bongo of recent.
Exactly.
You can go to the Gini, those things that have happened.
Yes, exactly.
Sudan up here.
Yeah.
All of them were extreme.
So the thing
were they more extreme?
That's the thing.
No, they were.
No, that's what I was saying. When you compare Libya and all those countries you've said, you'll see that it's a different phenomenon. Yeah. It's different.
Well, let's not say Libya.
It's very different. No, but for me, I was related. No,
it can. West African
that's what I'm saying. I've not disagreed with the fact that a coup can be staged here, but I'm saying what happened in Libya as a country and Gaddafi as a person, not other African countries, but what happened to Libya and how Gaddafi was taken out of power.
But the one for Libya wasn't about the people.
It can happen. The coup can happen. A bloodless coup like Zimbabwe can happen. But NATO cannot take its forces to come and remove Museveni.
Libya wasn't the people.
Why do you think
that's what I'm saying.
Edgar, why do you think NATO cannot take its forces to come and
Museveni, the interests that Gaddafi threatened are not the same interests that this person threatened. No, sina kutukiriza. Gaddafi was more extreme. Gaddafi yali ababanje ensimbi kye kisooka byali bingi byali bigenda maaso. Gaddafi eweto waberanga kulonda yadde. It was a pure dictatorship. Tewali yadde kulonda bichi one at least inaka hybrid.
So it wasn't about
there was a lot.
What happened to Gaddafi wasn't about Gaddafi.
Exactly. It was
about the interests of other people.
Teria ina interest. Uganda teina that strategic power. It's all interesting san NATO. The only thing that can remove Museveni, in my perspective, can be maybe if they stage a coup against him, which is highly unlikely, really, because he has his son in the realm of things. That can be, or the people themselves standing up and saying, we have decided, and the people are also unlikely because most of the people it's like what is happening in Gabon.
Museveni was part of the breakdown with the aim of talking about him like you are doing now. If we came to restore, what has he restored? Yet we are still using a mean and a left-in structure.
I also don't want us to be blind
exactly
to the achievements of the current administration.
If someone asks a question like that,
that's done worse, but that's
it might have done bad things, but there are some achievements, and he also he knows them.
He knows that there are achievements.
People are angry.
People are tired. It's okay. It's justifiable. But there are some things. Someone cannot rule you for more than 30 years and not do nothing.
And if it was only 2 years.
Yasanga population ya Uganda eri kumeka.
Museveni yakoma dio kola
Okola atya?
Okubanga akolera bana Uganda.
Leero.
So ayine engeri yakola nayonoona.
No, everybody he has worked.
Museveni
but everybody
bana
has had his
Uganda.
weaknesses. Achabakolera neto swata mambo achabakolera ngalo.
Benefit Ugandans.
To some extent it does benefit some Ugandans, but I think he has outlived his I don't want to use a word. He has outused his importance. He has outlived his importance, really. Because there is nothing new at Chachaswaleta. At the time he brought...
Because he gets new advisors each time, so he can do.
Now, when you have spent a long time in presidency like that, I don't think it's very easy to advise you. To the contrary, you're the one who advise the people who are supposed to advise you. Because Kati Museveni watu se wano, the state is part of him and he's part of the state. Ochitegera Kati President Museveni chiba chizibuyo okwera banga tali mu kulembeze bwali n'okwanga. Because achimanyidde ogugwe mulimu gwe oba
tasobola kutula ali rashwa yera banga tali si president.
Ekisoboka. Because achimanyidde nnyo tusobola kuya mukulembeze kumala myaka 3 mu 7 n'ekigo.
So you are insinuating agenda feel
n'abaana be kati baba chiba part of them. Ochitegera.
So you want to say Museveni agenda kufira Mutebi?
Si kyengambye because sinze Katonda naye kyendowooza President Museveni yali deciding anagamba you know what anchite. But nobody around him has the capacity of removing him.
Katulinde paka mukama lwali mujjulula.
Paka bwali salawo. Era ye wali salawo mpozi ne mukama na mujjulula. Ate nze engeri gyenda bamu. President Museveni, I was watching a video of a Sri Lankan president engeri gye bamuleese okumunominatinga. And I think President Museveni can go that style. Rogers.
I saw. But after arresting, meanwhile, the man opposition. So, this is very interesting. Again, that's what I said. It's just selfishness, honestly. It's just selfishness. Because as much as he is president, for him, I think at his mind, he's like, I am just one person who's occupying this office. There are millions of other people who are working for this country and the institutions that are delivering services to the people. And I think at the end of the day, he feels like, what does it affect you when I am here in this office? Because you have technocrats working for you. So but again, it's just selfish. I don't think it drives us any further. People don't change presidents just for occupation of office. It's because they come with fresh perspectives, it's because they come with new ideas, because things have changed. The things that happened in 1980s is not the same as happening today. Okay. The world has changed. We are more modern these days. And him and his administration, people seem to not have adjusted so much to the current trend. Yeah, and we will not perform better in this trend if we still have that mentality of the 80s and the 70s. So his change is not that we cannot do better, but because he has failed to adjust to the current trajectory. And
he's adamantly failing.
And we need other people to really give us a new perspective and direction. Because the current ones, the problem is that when you overstay, everyone starts to avoid to say or do anything that is going to put them at crossroads with you. So people are really working for you. People are really working for you, not because that is the best they can do. But that's the best they can do as far as your interests are concerned. So that's the general problem. That's all. The
only issue in my perspective in that regard is that as Museveni is thinking about his exit from presidency is what is his interest? What is his interest at heart? Yeah. Do you have Uganda at heart? Because Museveni will either decide to have Uganda at heart or will have to decide to go down with Uganda. Because the power is still in his hands. Because Museveni can decide to throw us back into where we were, or he can decide to love Uganda so much, which I don't dispute that gentleman loves Uganda so much, to decide that, hey, I love this country so much, let me leave it.
I've done my best.
He loves Uganda.
And in the spirit of loving Uganda, the people who are also coming up to put that at the forefront.
No, it's a culture we have to change.
I thought we would have time to also speak about Kyagulanyi and the speech he made the other day in Luweero.
He has made
you
I think
can
that was
comment about
very, very unnecessary and very shameful for a person who's looking for
To say what?
this is for Bazukulu Bachintu.
Bazukulu Bachintu.
And really, the speech wasn't.
So what was wrong about his speech?
It was tribalistic. That's it.
When he says abazukulu wa Nambi.
Yes,
But you
because
had this speech, yeah.
omuntu omulala atali muganda si muzukulu wa Nambi. You don't know.
The
You
things-
mutoro toli muzukulu wa Nambi.
No, the things he was relating to, the truth is there's tribalism in current government.
In politics, generally.
Generally, and it goes without mention. It's just there.
Yes.
But it doesn't make you better to come and promote that and literally say the same things. How do you then become better than the other person who's there? I thought the reason why we should choose you is that you are better.
Nga weak point ya government eriko yagitambulireko.
But then he is becoming just like them.
Exactly.
Because you don't do better by becoming like your predecessors. So I think, honestly speaking, as an individual, because he's a person who has presented himself as a generational leader, he should avoid those things. He should avoid those things. They are going to cost him. Yeah, they are
There
going
is a
to
way they
cost him.
promote tribalism. There is tribalism.
Oba mwache mwagala
No.
okusosa
There is tribalism in
everywhere.
MOOP as a party.
Anti ngambe chimwagala okutambuza.
Sije twagala, it is what they promote. It is what they show. It is in their talks.
It is what they showed.
That means everybody
It
has.
is in their talks. It is what they promote.
But everybody.
Not everybody.
Even in NRM, you will say that it's a bit tribalistic.
Kizibu nnyo okusanga owa NRM nga ayina engeri gye naye abanuupu abasinga balina engeri gye bayogera ku tribalism tebamala sho ne bwebeera sho tebagimalaako nga tayogeddeeyo kantu ka tribalism.
So kati mukubye ebituli mu speech ya Kyagulanyi.
Sikuba bituli, we are just saying it was a wrong choice of words.
It wasn't a wrong choice of words because the way he spoke, it was intentional. And I think it was total nonsense.
But if the shoe fits you, I think
No,
it becomes
maybe you should have known that the people in Luweero abatali banna bazukulu ba Kintu. Maybe.
Kati go just, hey, people, you're just over.
So let me ask, what will he speak when he visits Chituguma and Good? What will
He was in Lira, wasn't he?
No, and what was his speech?
He wasn't he there?
So
He was there, but you cannot.
You tailor every speech according to the people there.
So when you go to
I think when he realized, most of the people,
the
thing is, most of the people in
Well,
Luweero, and I'm not defending him, most of the
Wala-
people in Luweero, first of all, we know that it's Buganda based. Most of them,
It's mostly,
yes, but
that's
there are other tribes. It's mostly Baganda there, which is true. When he says Bazukulu wa Nambi, he also talked about the problems that they faced because Luweero was the pinnacle area in the struggle for.
And
for
those
government
people in
from these
Luweero
people.
know they don't need any reminders.
Exactly. So, but he was trying to, speak to them
That's
about
what-
their issues.
Sorry so much.
Okay.
When on my way home, and I come from the Rural Triangle, just so you know. On my way home, there's a place called Mudwaniro. Mudwaniro, there's a place where they gathered all those skulls and buried them in one place. And so when you pass there, you can go. In fact, even if you want to go and check it,
Though it
you
looks
can go.
ramshackle
They won't
these
stop
days,
you.
unfortunately.
They won't stop you. You can go and check on those things. So the people there know,
Exactly, they know.
and they know. So
it's just reminding them.
It beats my understanding why you would come and use that as your message to the people. And you want to be a better leader, and you present yourself as an alternative.
Nga tumaliriza twakyazaako wano omwana omuto eyayitibwa Professor Gwene Magezi nga she's contesting for Little Miss Universe 2023. Oh my God, she won. Congratulations. Yeah. She won. And nga bwolaba nga
Little Miss
bamutikira ya Little Miss Universe.
Miss Universe,
Uganda.
it's not Miss World, Universe. Do you know what the universe is?
I mistook it for...
Little Miss Universe.
She's a very important person.
Yes,
Everybody
congratulations.
could
You can see her confidence even when she was on the show. Twagala okwebaza mama taata that made it possible for her to win. Bana yabazadde mubeere nnyo pillars mu bulamu bw'abaana baabwe. It is a dress that is fashion. My dear Roger, say your last remarks and we'll close the show.
Anyways, just to conclude, I thought it's available. It just looks like those gift bags. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. We come here every morning not just to speak amongst ourselves. We present our opinions, but it's so that we also learn from each other. That whatever is going on is a responsibility of each one of us.
Yeah.
And today, we dwelt mostly on Africa as a whole, mostly. Like we were about Africa, and honestly speaking, as an individual, I think we need to do better. It's true that the game is not, the playground is not leveled in the global geopolitics, but we cannot always expect things on a silver platter. If we expect that, we are going to always be taken advantage of, and we'll never get out of it. So we need to do better. That's all I have for you. Have a good morning.
Okay. Thank you so much for watching. From my perspective, it's always a privilege to have you on the show. And I hope you can learn a thing or two from what we have said, and of course, maybe how we can change this Uganda, because we are young people. It is our role to make Uganda a better place. That means everything you do today will shape how Uganda looks like tomorrow. So the decisions you make today are the decisions that we're going to base on to build a Uganda that is better for us, our children, and of course, the continuity of our species as a people. So thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.